and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So, in this episode, I will be discussing the 1957 black and white science fiction movie, The Invisible Boy, as directed by Herman Hoffman and based on a story by Edmund Cooper. So, this movie was certainly something of a curiosity piece for me, more than anything. I had just watched the 1956 science fiction classic Forbidden Planet. My review was up earlier this week, and upon researching information for the review for that movie, I did actually find out, much to my surprise, that it actually had a follow-up movie of sorts with one of the film's main characters, Robbie the Robot. And much more to my surprise, in fact, that this movie, The Invisible Boy, came included as part of the special features on my Blu-ray copy of Forbidden Planet. So, win-win all round. So, now, I'm going to kind of recap a little bit. If you haven't seen my review of The Forbidden Planet, of course, please do, check that out. Or you're not kind of familiar with the movie Forbidden Planet, then for your benefit, Robbie the Robot is a character from that movie that, whilst indeed being a robot, was one of the first such creations on screen to take a kind of more pivotal role in a movie. And indeed had many of that film's best one-liners, absolutely. Robbie, quite simply, stole the show in The Forbidden Planet and commands a real on-screen presence with a real distinct personality and even an attitude at times, giving Robbie a real likeable quality without making it seem cheesy or childlike, as I kind of said in the review for that film. Now, I knew Robbie was, well, probably still is a kind of a massive kind of cult icon, appearing as a cameo in all sorts of classic TV shows in one guise or another. From Lost in Space, like I said, The Twilight Zone again, even Columbo, Mork and Mindy, and even making, like I said, a fantastic cameo appearance in the 1984 movie Gremlins. Little did I actually know, however, that, you know, it starred in its own star vehicle, The Invisible Boy. So, set in the 1950s on our own planet this time round, this movie does not serve as a direct sequel to The Forbidden Planet. It is not a continuation in any way, and for the most part is a completely independent film with a completely separate premise and story. It is not considered a canon at all. However, in the movie, we do find out that Robbie in this movie is indeed the same Robbie as the actual character from The Forbidden Planet, brought back from 2309, over 300 years ago, well, from the future, via time travel. So in my book, that makes this part of the series, at the very least, for the character. This movie centres around Dr. Tom Marino, as played by Philip Abbott, who is in charge of a supercomputer capable of answering any question asked of it. Based on probability, the military, they're looking to kind of launch a manned rocket into space, and the computer, well, which is as big, it's as big as a house, is assisting with the calculations. This supercomputer can actually talk, which obviously for 1950 odd, that's a big deal. A feature designed to make input into the machine, the input of data, much more streamlined. Tom, however, for as brilliant as he is, cannot seem to connect with his son, Timmy, not Timothy, that's my dad's name, Timmy, as played by Richard Gere. I'm getting all tongue twisted here. And in an attempt to find an answer thinking that there is more than like a more deep-rooted psychological rationale for this. He then takes his son to the supercomputer to ask it for some feedback. Well, little does everybody know, the computer has actually formulated its own master plan to dominate, well, of course, the human race, and has been carefully suggesting upgrades and design changes over the past 29 years to reach its end goal, expertly waiting and playing its own long game of chess. And it then sees an opportunity in Timmy that's just too good to pass by. Left alone with the machine, Timmy's IQ is boosted exponentially by the computer through hypnosis, and its effects are immediate. Timmy, later that day, hustles his dad into a game of chess, and after first deliberately losing, beats him in only 6 moves. Timmy then goes on to rebuild a robot that has been gathering dust at his dad's place of work. A joke among scientists, probably purportedly brought back by Dr. Greenhill, who we do never see in the movie, using a time travel device. An adventure, of course, we certainly missed that one. This, of course, turns out to be Robbie, who we last saw in the movie Forbidden Planet. Robbie's core protocols, which stop him from doing harm to humans, are switched off by the supercomputer, and in doing so, becomes another pawn in its master plan. Robbie is used to first turn Timmy invisible with a concoction used to change his refraction coefficient, which of course is fun to start with, but then is used to kind of kidnap Timmy and turn other members of the scientific team into servants, using resistors embedded in their head. All of this is to ransom against Tom, who holds the key to being able to allow the supercomputer to be moved and achieve its ultimate goal of being put into orbit around the Earth. And in doing so, as always, have ultimate control. So, after watching this movie, I can safely say that I have never come across it before. Nothing in the movie rang a bell at all, and apart from Robbie, nothing seemed familiar at all. I can honestly say that this movie was nothing at all like The Forbidden Planet, but it was never meant to be. You know, it didn't really want to go that direction. They simply used the popularity of Robbie, the robot, to kind of boost interest in their own movie, which for a movie in the 1950s, I would suggest was a fairly unique move. You can certainly tell that this movie was made on a stricter budget, for one. The special effects do leave quite a bit to be desired, to be fair. And in this instance, they haven't held up too well. At times, the movie has tried to be too ambitious for what resources they actually had at the time. And unfortunately, that really does show through. But overall, I did actually enjoy the film. It was a charming, kind of short story type science fiction film. Perhaps a bit ambitious, you know, but hey, if you never try. It takes advantage of the space race happening around that time, and the movie was kind of made between the different countries and the hostility, you know, that existed, and the espionage that was ensued, kind of builds on all of that. At first, you know, the military believe that the supercomputer has been compromised by the enemy, you know, hacked. The human enemy, that is. But then it plays on the audience's fears of that particular time, on just exactly what a computer was and what they could actually be capable of. The thought that computers could control humans, scary. And this was many years prior to the advent of the Terminator franchise. You know, who knows? You know, this could have been the beginnings of Skynet. I did chuckle quite a bit when Timmy asks his dad what a computer is. Yeah, there was such a time. And the answer given would blow your mind. And it took him the whole dinner to actually explain. Leslie, my wife, she might actually say it's like having a dinner conversation with me. But it is a playful movie, all told, with a fairly dark and more serious twist. It, however, doesn't have a serious enough backbone to see the darker elements through. But it is a pleasant enough to watch as a result, you know. It's one of those kind of films that you can't help but watch on a Saturday afternoon when it's on TV, and with it being fairly light overall, it's kind of one you can watch with the kids in the room, you know. Character-wise, they're palatable for the most part. Nobody has a standout part, to be fair. Not even Robbie, I'm afraid. That's kind of the disappointing part. Nobody's roles are really fleshed out in any more than is required, which makes most of the conversation in the film feel a bit robotic at times. You know, even more so than the actual robot in the movie. The young kid, you know, he does a decent job, all told, especially for how young he seems, and given that he is pretty much the main focus of the film. But he is quite irritating, and even more so when he's invisible, you know. The way the film is scripted just kind of doesn't help, and at times it just doesn't seem believable. It was Timmy's parents' nonchalant attitude towards him being invisible that actually got me in this movie. You simply got, oh, Timmy's invisible. Stop messing about and eat your tea. I mean, the kid was invisible. But with this, you did kind of get the feeling that what they were going for, especially with the inclusion of the kind of like the time travel element, that even though it was something scoffed at by the other scientists, and even Robbie's appearance was met with disinterest, to be quite fair, it did really get you kind of believing that this was a world where weird things were a normal day occurrence. Perhaps there were just simply more stories to be told in this universe. But in any event, his parents' reactions just totally weird. Surreal, in fact, to be honest. Just another day at the office. Like it's just another thing that happened. But, as I've insinuated, the biggest disappointment for me came from Robbie. It was such a pivotal character in the Forbidden Planet. And here we have something that is initially dismissed as a joke. A child's toy. We don't get to see Robbie's full capabilities here, and although it does have a few lines, it now has been relegated more as a sidebar curiosity, a novelty more than anything else. It's also not as witty at all, with Robbie being more incidental in this movie than pivotal. And, you know, the film did actually start off quite intriguing overall, and to be fair, it does end pretty well too. But if I'm honest, it did get a bit hammy in the middle with the introduction of Robbie. It just seemed like a cheesy addition, really, to what started out as a more serious kind of science fiction film. The invisibility angle was more of a short-lived gimmick in the movie and made the film kind of less serious and more whimsical, if I'm honest. Very kiddie, if you like, with lots of convenient science, resorting in part to some real silly and slapstick comedy, when really I think the film could have held its own without some of these elements. And I am really sorry to say, Robbie included. It was indeed great to see it back on the screen, of course, you know, but it just felt forced and lacking, and just seemed like a real missed opportunity this time around. So overall, it was an entertaining film. Enjoyable all round, really. Just not one at the top of its game. Nor one that kind of made the best use of its biggest star. It was certainly delightful on its own way, if you like. Charming would probably be the best word to use. But didn't take itself seriously, which in the end meant that the science fiction elements, that they suffered as a result. It's certainly worth a watch if you're into your kind of older science fiction movies, out of curiosity, if nothing else. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Definitely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk. We would definitely love to have you back. Don't forget, check out my review of Forbidden Planet if you haven't seen that already. But yes, most of all, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.